Hi there. I'm here again, asking you to join me in working on my sermon that I'm putting together on forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. This next part of the Lord's Prayer. As you know, those of you who've been following this blog, I've been video blogging in my sermon preparation through the Lord's Prayer. Perhaps one of the more challenging parts of the Lord's Prayer is the part that says, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. I don't think it's hard for most of us to admit that we're not perfect, to say that we've done things wrong, to even admit that we owe God a lot. Um, I don't think this is hard for um, very many of us. Maybe it's hard for some of us, and we'll get to that a little bit later in this week. But what I'm thinking about is the second part, the forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. I talked to somebody about this once, and they talked about how they struggled with this specific passage. They even admitted to me that at one point when they came to this part of the Lord's Prayer, that they changed the words around. They changed the words around because they did not want their forgiveness contingent upon them forgiving others. Now, I'll get more into this later in the week, but what I'm thinking about right now is maybe we need to start with a little better understanding of what forgiveness is. What forgiveness is. I think a lot of us tend to think of forgiveness as excusing, and it's not excusing. What do I mean by this? When we say that we have forgiven somebody, or we are forgiving somebody, sometimes we think of it as getting to the point to where we pretend that it never really happened or that it did not matter. And that's excusing a behavior. Saying that it didn't matter or we forget it even really happened. It's not forgiving a behavior. Forgiving a behavior is acknowledging that something hurt, that something was wrong, that something was painful, that somebody hurt you, and deciding that you are not going to hold that sin, that evil, that debt against that person. I think debts is the best version of the Lord's Prayer for exactly that reason. That it's something tangible, a word picture we can get a hold of. We talk about debts, we're talking about trespasses, sins. It's all kind of the same way, same thing. But when we have this picture of debts, it helps us to understand a little bit about what forgiveness is. Because when we're asking to have our debts forgiven, as we forgive those who have debts to us, well, then we understand that we let go of the debt, that we let go of this stronghold that we have over this person and that this person has in our life. We acknowledge the evil that they've done, but we don't keep an account of it anymore. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing, in that it doesn't mean that you necessarily go back to the place where you had been wounded before. If you forgive somebody who steals your money, that doesn't mean you have to leave your wallet on the table and walk out of the room. It means that you no longer think less of that person and think of that person as less than you or owing something to you, or just because of the evil that they have done. Forgiveness is different than excusing. Forgiveness is also a verb, to forgive. It's not It's not a possession. It's not a noun. Forgiveness is a verb. What do I mean by that? I mean that forgiveness is an action word that we use. We choose to forgive. We choose to take a posture of forgiving. We choose to take this action of forgiving, something that we may have to do over and over and over again. But forgiveness isn't contingent upon our feelings. It isn't dependent upon our feelings. It's an action word. We may still feel anger and act in a way that is forgiving. We may still feel hurt and wounded and still act in a way that is forgiving. I'm trying to think of an example here. Let's just think about a person in your life that has really hurt you, and you've tried to forgive them, but then they keep doing that thing, or you keep being reminded of that action that broke your heart, that hurt you, that left you wounded. Choosing to forgive does not mean that those feelings are going to go away right away. It just means that you are not going to put yourself in a position of judging that other person, of thinking of them as better than you, of holding what they have done against them, of putting out a lien on them because of the debt that they placed upon you, to use that metaphor. So anyway, it's getting dark in here, as you can see. Those are a few things to think about. Let me know what you think. Bye.